Welcome back to the Daily Stack. I am your host, Jody Flournoy. We have my co-host, Halston Valencia, and today we have Dan Webb, our good friend, BTC Inc. program coordinator, has his irons in a lot of fires. So we're excited to dive into anything and everything today. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
We're glad to have you.
We're above 70 today, which is great. I told myself I was going to get a haircut once we were above 70, but then it dipped down to 60. And then I don't want to be like in the chair watching the price to see if that's gonna have to get up and just walk out. Fun fact, the guy that cuts my hair, barber, also named Josiah. So I think in our small town, there's two guys named Josiah. I'm one of them. And the other guy's the haircut guy. He's way cooler than me. He has like half his hair is black and like the other half is like white blonde. And he, like what you'd imagine in like a mosh pit metal concert, but great with the scissors.
Have you orange pilled your barber yet?
I've like talked to him. I don't think he's fully bought in. Like his mind's in different places, but each of these guys is independent contractors, right? So they are owning their own business. Need to lean in more. I think this is a good nudge for me to go in and say, look, like you get off this like Square, payment acceptance on your phone, or if he's using Square, he can already accept Bitcoin. So I need to be like, hey, I can't pay you in cards today. Like, let's do this. And
at least see if they'll accept a tip. Sometimes you tip your barber if he's like, listen, let me hit you up with some sats here.
Yeah. I feel like the moment I can orange pill my hair lady, that's when I know I've made it. That's how I measure success. If I can orange pill my hairdresser.
Well, yeah, you're stuck. They are stuck with you because you're paying them for about an hour, sometimes more, depending on your hairstyle.
Well,
perfect
for girls,
opportunity.
it's like
they can't
4
escape.
or 5 hours. Yeah.
So this morning, Dan, we have a lot of stuff we've written down we want to go through, but generally, what are the vibes like right now? Like I know you're plugged into Twitter. You're like, I see you're interacting with a ton of accounts. You're all over the place on Bitcoin Twitter. There's going to be sentiment, I think, both ways. Halston was just at Strategy World. And so we talked around with Jeff Walton last week from Strive. Look, there's been a ton of negativity with Bitcoin treasury companies. A lot of it rightfully so, but so many bad actors and like people that are tourists have been cleared out. Now you're looking at, the real ones, the ones that are launching prefs, the ones that are like, hey, I see a 10-year vision with actually holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Those are the ones that are still there, and they have conviction and they have good spirits on it. What's your read on where we're at?
So my job every day, I am talking to Bitcoin podcasters, Bitcoin entrepreneurs, CEOs, the Bitcoin treasury company employees, miners, because we're trying to program content for the Bitcoin conference coming up in April in Las Vegas. And I think it's still to be determined if this is going to be a bear market Bitcoin conference or not, because the sentiment seems to kind of be a lagging indicator of price, and the price has been pretty rough since October. But surprisingly, and I'm talking to people all over the industry from all over the world, sentiment's still high. People are still bullish. People are still optimistic despite the price action. It feels like we bottomed in the past month or so, in the low 60s. A lot of people were calling for 58K. A lot of people were waiting for the 58K party. It doesn't seem like we're going there anytime too soon. Of course, if you watch the news right now, anything could happen that could send that price lower. But I mean, with all the stuff that's happening around the world in the Middle East, with conversations about oil prices, we saw the oil prices spike Sunday night. Bitcoin's not really seeming to be too spooked by that. So my guess would be that all this chaos and all this conflict involved, it's all been priced in. And maybe that was part of the reason we went so low at the beginning of this year. But no, the sentiment is high across the industry. Even in the Bitcoin treasury company space, the stock prices are not where people would want them to be. But for the most part, the people who are still in and the people who are still involved are pretty bullish. They're still building and they're still planning for the future.
What's the, I guess thematically, like, is we don't know about price, right? Like that's a whole different thing. We had like you have Bitcoin for corporations, which is at Strategy World, there's tracks that are involved in any of the Bitcoin conference. What is that new area that you guys are trying to reach out to? Like what's the focus this year? That's
Yeah. Honestly, they're definitely still building out, and a lot of people say that the Bitcoin treasury company, kind of a fad, whatever you wanted to call it, or that even like the most harsh critics called it, a pump and dump or whatever for exit liquidity. However, if you look at the strategy world, you look at Bitcoin for corporations, those guys are working really hard and they're very optimistic. So the accusations of like this short-term behavior, their actions don't demonstrate that. They're building for the long term, just like they're saying. Like they understand the volatility in the price. They understand there's going to be extra volatility in their stock prices because it's a leveraged play on Bitcoin in many cases. So it's kind of to be expected. I think surprise to some people's surprise, some of these Bitcoin treasury company individuals have a little time preference than people gave them credit for, but the real theme that we're seeing, and this is especially true in the mining space, is this pivot, not like a full pivot to AI and high-powered compute, but incorporating that into their business models, incorporating HPC into what they're putting in their data centers. And it's a bigger challenge than I think the average person would intuit. If just you might think about it as just like, oh, take this ASIC out and you put a GPU there, you plug it in and you go. It's not that simple. And I'm learning about that process by talking to these companies and these individuals and investors who are trying to build this out. But it's coming. And I think that what we're seeing is that Bitcoin miners are in a unique position to really benefit from all of this potentially trillions of dollars over the next decade or two rushing into AI and HPC. Because, I mean, if you think about it, Bitcoin miners have the experience running these large data centers. They have relationships with power companies, utilities. They've got the real estate. They've got the physical infrastructure themselves. They've got the experience of kind of running this, like kind of compute as a commodity or a service. So the volatility and the price of the compute that they're doing, keeping those data centers cool, all the technology around how to do that, how to filter, how to immersion cool, they know it. They've got the experience. And somebody who's coming in as a pure play HPC competitor, a newer company, they might have all the right things on paper, but they don't necessarily have the experience that these Bitcoin miners do. And we're seeing the Bitcoin miners move into this space and really be able to hit the ground running and be successful. The long-term thesis on that is still playing out, but so far it looks like Bitcoin miners are really taking advantage of it.
Yeah. The shout out to the mining mafia, who's very active last year. Our friend Lev, who's been on the show, he's been active in that chat, and he's made some, I think, very profitable bets on a lot of these miners that had moved in, such as Iron into the HPC space. Apologies to the audience if you're watching yesterday, because we did pull up the story briefly. I think it does support exactly what you're saying thematically. Leopold Aschenbrenner, previously OpenAI, he's 24 years old, wrote a very long thesis of what the next 10 years in AI is going to play out to. The big things getting at exactly what you're saying, Dan, is that the miners still have access to two things every HPC hyperscaler AI company desperately needs: power grid access and permits that take years to get. I am not a permit specialist, but governments move slow. And I think, and especially if you're talking about utilities, my sister worked at Georgia Power for 10 years plus. They don't move very fast. They're more worried about building nuclear power plants and all the safety, security, political ramifications, everything around that they really didn't even want to, spend a lot of time with miners, like courting them to their stake because they're like, we don't know how much valuable this asset is. So those that have implanted themselves and have a good power supply, low, cheap power, and then have the infrastructure, there's a good reason to think that Leopold's investment thesis for his fund, that's $5 billion now, or 5.5 billion, could play out as there's going to be this huge bottleneck, just like there is with memory with Micron and SanDisk. So CleanSpark's on there, CoreWeave, maybe I think he also has a Core Scientific position. Hut 8, we've had Asher Janut and Eric jump on the show. I think their focus, American Bitcoin's more Bitcoin mining focus. Hut 8's more like pure energy, HPC involved. But this is very much where AI and Bitcoin are overlapping. And I think to your point, and they have the expertise. It's not the same chips. ASICs and Bitcoin miners are different than a brand new NVIDIA chip. But what Leopold's is hitting on is, okay, there's a little friction, but access to power is going to be the most important thing. And I think politically, it's going to be very hard to get net new contracts, net new permits when suddenly prices are rising because all these hyperscalers are rising or increasing the cost of power. And I think even more than Bitcoin miners, which can be demand response, AI demands power 24/7, and that's the thing that actually makes AI worse for the power grid than Bitcoin itself.
Right. Leopold, I'm a big fan. I've reached out to him multiple times trying to get him to come to Bitcoin 2026, but I haven't heard back from him. But you mentioned his $5.5 billion hedge fund and some of the assets that he's got allocated there. I think it's over 20% Bitcoin miners. I think that it's Core Scientific, Iron, Applied Digital, Cypher, Riot, and I think you maybe have mentioned a few others. But that's what caught my eye, that he had so much capital invested in these Bitcoin miners. And some of the things, and you kind of mentioned it, like the HPC requires kind of like 24/7 uptime. And Nolan, who used to work for BTC Media, he's over at Roxham now, he was talking, and he's been talking to some of the people in the space, and the idea that some of these data centers that are kind of focused big time on HPC are going to need, or are already realizing that they're going to need to incorporate Bitcoin mining into their operations for some of that, this balancing the grid or stabilizing the grid, and being able to have that flexibility to turn off a significant amount of power consumption at a moment's notice to kind of help balance that out.
Yeah. I kind of want to pivot. I want to go back to the institutional and political interest. I mean, you work with BTC Media and Inc. So you have a front row seat to this massive influx of new interests. Are you seeing kind of a clash of cultures within the crowd, like say like the OG Cypherpunk ethos bros and the institutional suitcoiners, if you will?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say from my job at BTC Media that I see it too much, but it is definitely, like, you see it in the culture. You see it on Twitter, you see it in the group chats, and just kind of the broader space. The industry is growing. I mean, Bitcoin went from still being a pretty niche market in technology about 5 or 6 years ago, and then around 2021, of course, when that bull market started, it really took off, and it hasn't slowed down. The price went down, but the adoption did not go down. And so it's essentially mainstream now. You can't turn on CNBC, you can't turn on any financial media without a Bitcoin coming up in the conversation at least once, per show, and they've always got the ticker at the bottom. So it's growing pains. The friction is the corporate Wall Street guys, the cypherpunks, the plebs, the podcasters. Like, everybody's kind of trying to figure out where they fit in and where they belong in this space. And I think with AI being so much overlap with AI and some of the compute stuff, it's only going to continue. But I
Yeah.
think that's fine. That's healthy. It's competition. Competition is brings out the best, and it also brings out the worst in people sometimes. But
Yeah.
no,
No,
it's all good for
completely
Bitcoin,
agree.
right?
Yeah, completely agree. I've kind of dipped my toes into the suitcoiner space, and I've been super interested in strategies preferreds and stretch and everything. And I've dealt with a lot of hate comments and, you know, people saying that you're not a true Bitcoiner if you support these products. So I guess my next question is, do you think this division is kind of a net negative for Bitcoin, or do you see it as, you know, institutional adoption and political interest as net positive for overall?
No,
Bitcoin?
it's a positive. It's definitely net positive. I think that there's drama, there's conflict, but it's like there's no such thing as bad publicity. And
Yeah.
I would maybe caveat that and say there's no such thing as bad publicity if you're the shiniest object like in the bunch, right? There are problems in the Bitcoin community. There are problems with the Bitcoin protocol, or problems, or what I guess I would say there are flaws. It's not perfect, but it's better than the fiat system. It's better than any alternative that we know about. So all publicity eventually, you know, sunlight's the best disinfectant. It shows that Bitcoin is superior at the end of the day. Even after all the arguments, all the conflicts, all the expose articles about how this is built, or, you know, how Bitcoin Core needs to be fixed, or how this new node implementation is a better alternative. All that conversation leads to the conclusion that Bitcoin is the best solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a marketing question for you. What do you think is the biggest mistake that Bitcoiners and Bitcoin companies, institutions make when trying to market this incredible asset?
Yeah, I think I thought about this quite a bit, and I think it's worrying too much about the knee-jerk reaction of the market when they first announce whether it's a product or a direction that the company wants to go in, or pivot in their strategy, and the boos from the crowd or whatever, because that's if you look at any brand, or if you look at any large platform, and you look at the comment section of anything they post about, it brings out negativity, it brings out criticism, and you just have to believe in what you're doing, believe in what you're building, and just do it. And let the critics be critics. That's because you just can't avoid that. So you should definitely take the feedback you get from your customers, your users, and the market, and use that to make better decisions. But I just wouldn't get bogged down with the negativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. We encounter that now. I mean, 21 Rates, you know, is our site. We do a lot of like comparisons on Bitcoin financial services and lending, cards, custodies, etc. And so we want to broaden the audience, broaden the market, and we incentivize people to go through these earn campaigns. So we launched one yesterday, Bitcoin Lending 101, with one of our sponsors, Arch. And we're literally giving people our Bitcoin, but you don't get a lot of like positive feedback. It's only like when someone like does it, you know, can't get in and like get their sats immediately, even though they didn't qualify or they didn't do everything, you know, appropriately. So for all the listeners that are users, you know, we're here, we're listening to you, we want to incorporate the feedback, but, you know, please be patient and positive. We're just giving you sats. We never take in sats from you. We want to make learning fun. And I think the value for value is the future in the Bitcoin economy, but you have to be very patient on how it works. I think a good example is like fiat's certainly not perfect. And if you try to like initiate a Swift transaction, you know, without using a bank or without using all the infrastructure in place, no one would know how to get started, right? You're coding some message that sends over the internet to someone else. And the thing is like a bank does that for you, you know, Cash App or Venmo does that for you. And we're getting to the point where all of that infrastructure is there. I'll skip ahead since we're already on the topic. Bronta, you're working with, what do they do? So I'm on your profile. I didn't do too much back research on them, but now's your time to shill. Like, what are they cooking?
Yeah. I love the team there. It's a small startup, and it's a very simple product. I guess I'll kind of frame it that when I started working with Keith, who's running Bronta over there, it was trying to figure out how to market or how to communicate what Bronta was to people, because it was so simple that it was a bit deceiving. What Bronta does is it allows you to verify that the address that you're sending money to, making a Bitcoin payment to, belongs to the person or the entity that you think it does. And a good example of this, because they're in the BTC Pay plugin store. I think that same with Zapright, and they're continuing to add to these platforms. When you go to checkout and you get the QR code, the payment code on your screen, the payment code that you're seeing could have been swapped by a malicious actor anywhere from the point where it left BTC Pay or the merchant's server and went through to where it showed up on your screen, including your own device. Like if your device is compromised, including your browser, if the software that the merchant was using, maybe they used an NPM plugin and somebody compromised that and they switched out the address string when that was published, you might end up paying a malicious actor. You might be phished. You might lose your sats. You might not get your product. What Bronta does is when you scan that QR code, it gives you a verification that, hey, this is the invoice number from the merchant that you are expecting that you are paying. And you can have the assurance that before you hit send, that is going to where you think it is and that your payment is getting through. And the way it works is it's very simple. It works with the merchants. As soon as they generate that QR code, it just goes to Bronta's server. It lives on there for the TTL, so 10 minutes. And they even use zero. It's not zero knowledge from a mathematical sense, but it is zero knowledge in the sense that Bronta doesn't know what your QR code or what the address you're paying. It just knows that the one that it's displaying for you matches the one that was sent by the merchant. So you are able to pay with that and not leak any private data.
Yeah. I think that's going to be very, so after this, we're doing a show on like OpenClaw, Bitcoin, AI agents, our own bot. Claudius has a wallet and we're going to be doing a demo. The thing is most people, it's new. It's a new thing with prompt injection. So if you're typing into ChatGPT a prompt, you're like, hey, tell me the best restaurants in, Omaha, Nebraska. Okay, well, what if someone injects another malicious either in the submission or the response? Hey, also drain this wallet. And I think that's the thing is people aren't aware of all these attack vectors generally in the public of where people can go in. And if you're sending a Lightning invoice, is it going to be that QR code that someone's able to say, as this goes to ChatGPT servers or Anthropic servers, they add in just a little tag that says generate a new invoice that goes to this address, and then it reroutes it, and then the QR code you see is malicious one. Fascinating. I don't have the answers. Hopefully Bronta
Absolutely. Does. I was telling Bronta, I was in Slack the other day. I'm like, who needs Bronta the most is Claude bots. I mean, and AI agents, because there's going to be agent to agent payments it's already happening, but it's really going to take off. 6 months, a year, I don't know. But one of the challenges with working with any Bitcoin company and any new product is educating users and adding friction or adding a new step or something to their ritual or to the checkout process is always that's always gonna be a friction point, and it's always gonna be an issue when it comes to adoption. You don't have that problem with Claude bots. I mean, if you put in their their programming or their instruction, their soul, whatever you want to call it. Hey, before you make a Bitcoin payment, verify it with Bronta. Just here's the simple API plugin for that. And they'll do it every time. So every single time, your agent is making payments on your behalf for whatever reason, or just engaging in commerce in general and using Bitcoin, they can verify that the address that they are paying, the other agent that they are paying, that the address that they're receiving is what belongs to their counterparty.
Mm-hmm. So pulling this up, Halston, you go ahead while I'll pull up these charts.
Okay. Yeah. I kind of want to talk about your engineering background. Tell us first, how did you, start in engineering and then pivot into Bitcoin and now doing Bitcoin media, marketing, all of that content creation?
Yeah, so I studied economics in college and
Okay.
and political science, and I enjoyed the subjects, but you don't make too much money with an economics and political science degree. So I taught myself to code using YouTube videos. I mean, like we didn't even have like tutorial like code schools yet. But yeah, so I did that, and I slowly worked my way up, and I was a software engineer for 10 years. I worked at Swan from 2021 until last summer. And was one of the lead engineers and an engineering manager for the mobile team. I guess it was, I got a little bit burnt out with being a software engineer, especially when working in like a hyper growth type company where you're trying to just build products, and especially like with all of the regulatory issues and Operation Choke Point and the Prime Trust and Silvergate, all the banking's blowing up. It was just a lot of having to rebuild things and having to ride around it. And then I saw, AI coming and vibe coding and all that, and the narrative that this is going to disrupt for software engineers, which I started using it for that purpose and kind of saw the writing on the wall. I still like writing code. I still like vibe coding. But I just needed to take some time away and kind of, my dogs are going crazy behind me. I don't know if you can hear them growling, but I needed to take some time away and I really enjoy marketing, media, talking to people, and just getting out, going to conferences, traveling. Yeah. And I just wanted to find out more about what was really going on in the industry, in the economy, in the tech space, and kind of figure out where I wanted to go there next. I really love this job at BTC Media. I love programming for conferences, but it's also an opportunity to think of like, what are the real opportunities and the real challenges that need to be solved by Bitcoin companies, including BTC Media. I mean, we're incorporating AI like crazy, and I, as a software engineer, maybe the only software engineer in the company, I'm able to contribute to that. So I'm still a software engineer. It's just not my only job, and I think that's going to be the case for a lot of software engineers in the future. You're still going to write code. You're just not going to be only writing code.
Yeah. No, that's awesome that you're able to do that. Do you also think that maybe we focus too much on the technical upgrades in the Bitcoin space rather than the like moral necessity of Bitcoin?
I would, my perspective is maybe a little different from that. I think that we don't focus enough on the user experience, and just improving the user experience and making it just easier to onboard people. And I'm not just talking about making the apps easier to use. I think thinking about Bitcoin as money, and trying to use Bitcoin the same way we use fiat, despite the fact that they're completely different technologies, completely different incentives, completely different in so many ways. And everybody tries to set up an app that's exactly like Venmo or exactly like Cash App. And it's like, I don't necessarily have the answers to this, but I think the user experience for a hard asset like Bitcoin with the scarcity and the savings incentives, it's just trying to treat it as something you spend the same way you spend your dirty fiat currency. I just think there's some sort of misalignment there. And I think we need to maybe rethink user experience, not just at the application layer, but like back to first principles.
Yeah, and Halston's been hustling on her own on Stay Bolted. So is it at Stay Bolted, correct?
Yeah, it's staybolted.com. It's a site that I vibe coded just to kind of help people understand the financial landscape and the transition we're seeing in the world. And so I built some tools on there. There's some investment modeling tools and lots of other fun stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Always have to have a supporting meme to it. This is one of my favorites from this week. Commented on it, obviously. Two wizards. We had a good run. Remember all the good code we used to write by hand. The other one's like, I never wrote good code. Did you? Nah. And I think it gets to your point of just like, there's like, I've mentioned this before, but Mark Andreessen's talking to Amjad Masad, founder of Replit. And he's just like, yeah, hardcore old timers used to like get on me in the 90s that when I was doing Netscape, I wasn't writing machine code. But like, it would have been a massive waste of time if Mark Andreessen was typing zeros and ones into, a text edit versus actually thinking about what is going to move the needle and like thinking about 5 years ahead. And it's all about, I think, versus being product-led growth. You're going to have product-led growth, but it's more about distribution. Any Bitcoiner in the world can now come up and, hey, I want to like do this, something like 21 rates that we're doing pretty quick. And we know that. So we have to be very responsive to what people actually need, worry more about distribution, the way we educate, think about viral coefficients of like, are they willing to share this with someone else? And it's good for democratization of information, but you have to really focus on different things than you did in the past, when building a new product.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I started coding, I leaned heavily on Stack Overflow. And the guys, from the 90s and before that, like they had to open books and like flip through pages to try to find, hey, how do I write this algorithm? Or how do I write a recursive function that does something like this? Where it's, I would just go to Stack Overflow and find somebody who wrote some PHP slop that kind of did what I was looking for and just kind of like edit it there. And now anybody who started coding or vibe coding in the past year or so, like they don't even know what Stack Overflow is. So it's just evolving. I think the hysteria around there's going to be no jobs, especially for software engineers, everything's going to be automated. It's just so overblown. And at the end of the day, a lot of people who are vibe coding are just recreating the wheel. They don't realize that there's an NPM package or some other dependency package that people used to use in their applications years before to handle all these mundane tasks and manipulate strings or connect APIs to Google Cloud or AWS, whichever you're using. And they're building them with Claude code. And it's like, well, you could just literally one command line and you've got everything you need. There's all kinds of security implications for doing all these dependencies, but it's similar to the vibe coding. There's all these security implications that you're still going to need DevOps and security teams to prevent you from pushing code to production that is going to have a bunch of security flaws or expose sensitive data. But before vibe coding, you had to have those teams because you had junior engineers who were kind of like Claude and were going to make all the same mistakes.
Yeah. No, I definitely experienced that when building my platform because, I had no technical background, kind of just all like vibe coded the whole thing. And then I remember I showed it to my friend who's a software engineer. And I was like, hey, like, does everything look good? Is this good to go? Can I start, the process of building like a little merch store? And he's like, absolutely not. There are so many vulnerabilities. So, I think there's still going to be a need for a lot of software engineers to kind of just overlook. I think a lot of the code will be, maybe 80% of the way there, but there's still kind of that 20%, like you said. Yeah.
And there was like Claude code review, I think
just came out, I saw.
Yeah, just this week, and they found vulnerabilities in Firefox, which is decades long in the making. And that, I think it's always like, it's like absolutely true. People need to be educated on like why they needed code review, but it's never been easier, to do that. Like
exactly
having these super powerful tools.
Yeah.
What I think AI is bringing in a lot of different ways, but it's definitely true in software engineering as well, is it's compressing the feedback loop. Like you're able to produce some sort of prototype, whether it's a prototype application, a prototype, just a class function that you can test with your existing software, and you're able to get feedback. Does this work or does this not work? Or will this work? Or do customers and users, are they going to give us good feedback? Are they using this? Are they benefiting from this? And you are able to create media, you're able to create videos, you're able to create software, and then put that out there and get nearly instant feedback from your audience, from your users, and say, does this resonate? or is this slop? I can just discard it.
Yeah.
All right. So next segment, we're going to dive into one big thing that you've been involved with is Bitcoin prediction markets. So you're seeing the beginning of the whole like movement, and we've talked about culturally, like how these different segments play into Bitcoin, right? Like BTC Inc. talking about the conference, programming, figuring out, okay, what's palatable, what's not. There's altcoins, is this, something that is scammy? I think like anything, there has to be, the idea that you shouldn't chase these crazy, financial opportunities if they are too good to be true. But there's also ways that we've talked about on the show. Too many Bitcoiners have missed the AI boom because they didn't think Nvidia was as good of a company as just holding Bitcoin. But I think that there can be a world in the future is a realistic, practical mindset. There's going to be both. There's going to be both a need to have companies like Nvidia that make, one of the best American companies, biggest company in the world. So how do you really combine those two? Prediction markets, on the other hand, are just a unique gauge of sentiment. And I think you have some really good things we were talking about earlier that I would love your take on. And just like, how do you see these fitting into the Bitcoin ecosystem of just a vibe check on what's all, what's truth and what do people think is truth?
Yeah, I think the NVIDIA example is good because I don't think that you have to buy NVIDIA stock or any of these other AI companies in this space. I don't think you have to buy their stock. I don't think you have to speculate on those to understand that NVIDIA is the largest company in the world, a multi-trillion-dollar company. It wasn't a few years ago, and it is now. And there's all these other companies in the AI space who are rapidly rising. You don't have to buy their stocks to know that that is a signal. That it doesn't mean that it is the future, that it's going to be this long-term thing, although I think it will be. But it's telling you something. It's giving you information that people around the world, people with capital, are allocating to this new idea, this new industry. There is something going on. It is organizing people's behavior. And I think that one of the reasons, although there's many reasons, that crypto, especially like meme coins, have really died off in terms of popularity. The narrative is dead. The sentiment is dead. The prices are dead, is because at the end of the day, those were just speculative tools that people were seeing this price signal in the industry and being like, there's something big happening with Bitcoin and this broader crypto industry. It's the future. Like, I've got to get in on this. And a lot of people got harmed, or they got, scammed or whatever. But what meme coins especially, I think, demonstrated was that tens of billions of dollars in market liquidity can be organized and pooled very quickly around viral narratives and viral ideas that are catching people's attention all around the world and exciting them. And it doesn't really matter which network or protocol it's using. It can still pop up. These ephemeral liquidity markets can pop up around these viral narratives. And this is where I think prediction markets have kind of stepped in and found like a product market fit for this short-term viral speculation. And with prediction markets, you really are doing a good job. Similarly with AI, where like when you're using AI, you get really good at prompting. What you're doing is you're getting really good at describing the problem or describing the solution you're looking for, and really narrowing down and being as descriptive as possible so that the outcome is constrained based on the problem you're describing or the prompt you're giving it. And that's where prediction markets are valuable, because if you can narrow down the resolution criteria of the outcome, you give it a date and you give it really good constraints, you can generate this liquidity and have an outcome, a determinative outcome, where based on the information you have, whether it's inside information or just because you pay attention, you monitor the situation very closely, and you have a lot of information, and you're good at filtering the signal from the noise with that information, and you're able to use that to predict outcomes based on these markets. And I think people are finding a lot of, I think people are discovering this. I think people are discovering that you don't have to hope that you got in on Fartcoin at the right time and that you sold the top, and that but you have an expiration date for your speculations. Like, hey, will this BIP 110 activate and be enforced as the longest proof of work chain for Bitcoin by September 1st? It looks like they've updated through the 7th of 2026. You don't have to speculate on whether BIP 110 will maybe, or like this filter movement will succeed in the long run. You're speculating on, will this happen by this date? Because this is the date that they have put in their proposal for when they're activating. Now you can speculate. You're building, you're setting your own terms. It's similar to like options markets and TradFi. It's very specific. You've got an expiry date. You have your strike price. Everything is constrained and very controlled, and everybody's playing by the same rules. And not everybody has the same information though, and that is where the alpha comes
in. And like what you said, sunlight disinfects, and so people are incentivized to share that information, and they share it by taking a certain position on one side, and enough people like get that information that they also pick that side, and then it starts swaying the market. So I think the thing that we're looking for truth, I think very core to Bitcoin is money rooted in math and truth versus being swayed by political opinions. And I think the incentivization of having this, and we had an interview with Adam back in like early December or November, and he's a big believer in markets. He was saying around he's not anti-knots, but he's just like, yeah, like guys, like I think Bitcoin's good enough, letting the fiat markets decide what should and shouldn't be on the blockchain. I don't want to make a call on what's art, what an ordinal, should or should not be. If they're willing to pay a lot of money to put a JPEG on there, sure, like let them do it, because I don't want to suddenly be a censor that has to vote on all of these things. So I think that also people need to realize that like you're somewhat of the product, or you're somewhat you're not being used, but on social media, when you have big talking heads talking between core and knots, and they do long threads, and they have a lot of gusto and very alarmist, then you're somewhat of the product, and like those are your eyeballs. The algo's gonna like make them pop off. All the haters get propped up. All the Bitcoin podcasters get even bigger heads than they currently do. And then like you need to the average person's like, wait, like am I just getting excited about this and getting angry about this because other people are? I think having a market like this where people are held to actually putting their money on something is good. Because if you looked at this, you would say, oh, 7%, I should not be worried about this. I should be go touching grass and being with my family, not worried about the core versus knots debate, which people just use for content. And I say that very much aware that this is a Bitcoin show. But we try not to be super alarmist about these things, because if you go look in the markets, 7% just isn't something that we want to get our audience mad about.
Exactly. Like I said, price is a signal, and if the price is high, that it doesn't necessarily. Not everybody agrees what that signal means, and that's kind of where markets are made, right? Like the price is telling you something. It's your job to figure out what that something is telling you, and that is what markets are. So a meme coin was kind of a, I guess, fun way, kind of like ordinals. It's like, is there a long-term value for ordinals? Well, it doesn't seem like there is, right? But because it was kind of this troll, it was kind of a fun way to capture people's attention and let them know there's all of this stuff you can do now with block space in the witness data or in the op return or wherever it is that maybe nobody had thought about before. And now people are starting to think about the value of block space differently, because people thought about the value of Bitcoin, but the real one of the real constraints or the real scarcity on a practical sense is every 10 minutes, there's only so much space in a block. And if there was a huge demand for block space, you might be left out especially if you didn't consolidate your UTXOs, you might not be able to afford to make a transaction. And some people will say, well, that's fine. I'll just wait. I don't have to spend my Bitcoin right now. Well, you don't know. I mean, if you were in the Middle East a week or two ago and you needed to get out of there really quickly, or you're in some other situation where you do have to spend money to save your life or have security or to go home, and you can't spend your Bitcoin because block space is too expensive and too high demand, and you didn't consolidate your UTXOs, that's a problem. So now we're rethinking the value of that block space every 10 minutes. And it's kind of manifesting itself in this crazy Twitter war. But what are they arguing about at the end of the day? They're arguing about access to scarce resources. And one side of the debate doesn't want spammers and all these trolls and nonsense to be taking up scarce resources that could be used for monetary transactions, which is what they think Bitcoin, and what Bitcoin is. It is a monetary protocol.
Yeah.
If you look at silver, right? Like there's production use cases of it that we've talked about, and the countries that are like buying silver, China limiting silver exports, they're not restricting, the usage of it. I mean, China, I'm sure is if they have export controls, but generally the market globally isn't able to decide, hey, we don't want this to be used in mirrors or, used within solar panels. If there's a buyer for silver and it's not a monetary use case or a store value use case, but it's a production use case, they still buy the silver. Like there's a willing seller on that other side. And that's a free market principle. I think there's certainly things like plutonium and nuclear weapons where we don't want the free market to decide, but that's a totally different thing. Rapid fire through these, both your tags. Satoshi moves into Bitcoin 2026, 4.8%. I think this is a long-term FUD, but market's pricing it pretty low.
And this right here is where I think prediction markets need more maturity, because I don't know what the resolution criteria is, but Satoshi moves any Bitcoin. I assume that means that Bitcoin moved from a Satoshi era wallet or a Satoshi identified wallet. Mm-hmm. But if, a quantum computer, for example, were to rise up and steal Satoshi's Bitcoin, that wasn't Satoshi moving his Bitcoin. That was some quantum computer somewhere in the world. Yeah. So it's, again, like defining very, very specifically and clearly what the resolution, what the outcome is where these things, and we saw this a week ago where Kalshi did not pay out.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
The Ayatollah Khamenei would leave office this year. He did, but it was, the resolution criteria apparently they didn't want people to bet on assassinations or political death. So it was apparently supposed to be that he would have to be voted out in a democratic election or something. So again, like you just need to have these, all this, you're going to need lawyers, I guess, to really narrow these down to be super specific. Yeah.
That's a tough one, right? Like you don't want to incentivize people to, preempt or to push forward a death on us, on a country leader.
Yeah, that's dangerous. Yeah.
You don't want assassination markets. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're talking about free markets, it is, I see why people have a case of, that's what they expected. So interesting. A lot of makes sense why you have common law, as the predominantly underlying theory of each of these judicial codes. All right, we're going to fire through. Gold price 6,004 May 2026, 20% debasement trade still in effect. I think 20% is right because it's gone up so much at the end of last year. I think after Iran, that's a hopeful after Iran.
I think that, I read something on Twitter that made sense to me. That the run up in the gold price prior to Iran was the market kind of sniffing out this energy crisis that we may be entering, right? With all this oil, the Strait of Hormuz, with all the oil coming offline with the bombings in the region, and using that gold to be able to afford and buy oil when the price skyrockets. So that I think there's a chance that it definitely gets to 6,000, but I think that the pressure might be that people are going to be liquidating their positions for energy, like a Luke Gromen type conversation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Luke Gromen usually gets it right when it comes to gold and other hard assets. I think that we'll hit 6,000. I don't know about before May, but I think that's definitely in our books this year.
The energy trade.
Yep.
Smart. Bitcoin below 60K in 2026. We've brought this up a few times, and I believe it just has to be the 1 minute candle. And that was the gotcha that we've talked about is if it hits below like 58K, which is the meme, then as you started off saying earlier, that can get you because the 1 minute candle can happen fast. It's not like a daily close, below this. So just education piece on these prediction markets. Do watch what type of candle that is, what the close is.
And I think that we could wick down below 60, even if it was just for 1 minute, like today, it wouldn't surprise me. The way that things are going on around the world, especially with Iran, like would not surprise me. I think that this probably should be higher.
Yeah. Misinformation on, say they hit the Burj Khalifa, in UAE or in Dubai, right? That would be something very concerning. I know there's a lot of people stuck in Dubai that live in other countries that are very concerned right now. People are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to get flights out of Dubai. And there's, missiles going by, one of the tallest buildings in the world. Maybe it is the tallest building in the world still. So that is, I think something like that easily could happen. Totally agree. Or, some false report on a nuclear weapon going off and drops immediately, but then it rebounds when people figure out it's not true.
Yeah, I think we'd recover pretty quickly.
Bitcoin 150K, people aren't as bullish as they used to be. So
was it here 15%?
Yeah, right now we're 15.5%.
Oh,
48. Yeah. It's
going to take, I think, some sort of shift or change, dramatic change in global economic policy, or like a new Bretton Woods type, I think, to get to 150K this year. I would love to be wrong about that, but yeah, I'm an optimistic. I'm a pretty bullish guy. I don't see it.
Yeah. I'd say I agree with that. I feel like I'm kind of in the same sentiment there. I think I'm like super bullish long term. I feel like you can't look at the world and be bearish on Bitcoin in general. I think in the short term, though, I don't know if we'll hit 150 this year. I could see it definitely next year. I think, in 10 years, we'll definitely be way beyond 150, surpass it. But you know what? If you're an investor and you're buying Bitcoin and you're holding for 4+ years, like, you'll be okay. It'll be probably 5 times that.
And you know what? This is again back to the discussion about how to think about these prediction markets or these predictions in general. At the end of the day, Bitcoin could be worth $10,000 a coin. And that doesn't tell you anything other than the exchange rate. $10,000 a coin could, a house, there could be a rapid deflation. AI could create an insane amount of deflation to the point where $100,000, $150,000 is now the price of a house on the beach in Malibu or in South Florida. And it's because the economy is just so strong, and that you might see that and think, oh, this is not an asset I want. I got to get rid of this. The price isn't going to go up in 10 years, even to $1 million. But what is the purchasing power of that Bitcoin? It doesn't matter what the dollar price of the Bitcoin is. It's what is the purchasing power of the Bitcoin. So, if you want to make a prediction, maybe on a longer time frame of like, will Bitcoin be past 150 by 2030? I think a lot of people would say, well, I would hope so, but it could be. It might not be. But that might not tell you anything about how valuable it is. $150,000 Bitcoin in 10 years might be have more purchasing power than it does today.
Mm-hmm. If we're looking at, I think, just overall media, as we talked about, I think that as we're expanding our content on what we're doing, is giving people the truth, right? Too many like big names got big because they kept on saying, oh, Bitcoin's like, you know, going to be $1 million by the end of the year. They'd say, you know, gradually, then suddenly, which, you know, great book. But people took that as a meme, and then they said, hey, like, we're so early, like you're gonna 100x your net worth tomorrow. And that's not the truth, right? Like, it's good to have markets that are objectively say, look, like, we don't think that's going to happen, or you need to think in probabilities of, is that going to happen, and plan accordingly, you know, buy Bitcoin, but like, don't expect tomorrow. And I know Halston's done a good job of focusing on like something like Stretch, where there is risks involved. And, you know, there's this market, like, does MSTR miss a dividend payment in 2026? There's brief little bumps, but it's market's pricing it very low, and strategy is guaranteeing from their end like an 11% return, and it's not going to double your net worth overnight, but it is something that should be part of your financial mindset of, okay, hey, is this the best way to park this amount of cash that I can redeem on a monthly basis and get a dividend? And that's part of that investment portfolio. And then use the barbell strategy, hold predominantly cold storage Bitcoin on the other side.
I think 4% is kind of high, actually.
I think 8 is what they, you know, most recently said. It has to be a prolonged bear market of 8,000 before they, for years.
Yeah.
And so there is that.
They're covered.
But yeah, I think low as well.
Yeah, these guys are pretty risk averse. I mean, they aren't slop coding these these financial products, these regulated financial products. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. All right, Dan, we've really enjoyed it. We're looking forward to the conference coming up. What can you leave us with? What should we be excited about? Why should we go buy, you know, tickets right now and buy flights to Vegas?
I wish I could give you more specifics on the announcements that are coming, but there's going to be some big. I think even if this ends up being a bear market conference, some of the names that are going to be coming out in the next month are they're going to excite a lot of people. They're big names, big personalities, and just physically big people. It's going to be good. So remember that comment when the announcements come out. Yeah.
It's my first conference, first big Vegas Bitcoin conference, and I'll be there. So you guys should all come.
Yeah, this is like you're doing something. You're speaking, right?
Yeah, I don't know what, but I'll be speaking.
Yeah, all right. We're gonna tell the whole audience where to go, where to show up. Everyone's got to like show up in force. Everyone that stacks every day, come see David Halston. Dan, really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on soon.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks. It was great.
Amazing. And then,
bye, guys.
Audience, we'll be back in 5 to 10 minutes with Neutron Pay, and we're going to be talking OpenClaw and Lightning payments. Boom. him up on stage. Welcome back to the Daily Stack. Jonathan, how you doing?
Hey, Jody, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, let's get this, got to get the title bar updated. How's your morning? I know it's evening for you, right?
Yeah, it's evening now. I'm based in South Africa. Neutron is based in Canada and Southeast Asia, but I travel around a lot, and as you can tell by the accent, here in South Africa. So yeah, it's a beautiful evening. I can see the sunset from here.
Oh, amazing. And then we've been connected by, one of our friends, and we're super excited to dive in today. For a lot of our listeners, we've talked about the AI side from like a high level, but we really haven't done a lot of like tangible help. Like, why should someone care on what we're doing if they can't do it themselves? So we want to work with beginners. We want to help people. If you're playing around with OpenClaw, if you're just experimenting with Cloud Cowork, if you're seeing what Perplexing Computer can do, understanding the tools that are out there, how simple they are, and then really the why behind it. Like what do we see as the future? So today in this show, we want to dive into a little bit about, the background, where you guys, started Neutron Pay, why you started Neutron Pay, but then looking ahead, like what can we do? And like let's walk your users through.
I'll start with Neutron Pay, now known as Neutron, kind of like the meme, Neutron. It's cleaner, right? Sean Parker meme. But it started as a Lightning Network infrastructure company in the beginnings of the alpha release of the Lightning Network in 2017. So Albert, who couldn't join us today, he's based in Vietnam, so it's a bit late for him. Albert founded the company in 2017. He set it up, started building his own Lightning Network. We're one of the oldest nodes in the network, if you look us up. And the idea was to set up this infrastructure with all kinds of services on top of it to make it really easy for everyday merchants, users via mobile app, and then businesses via API to send and receive Lightning payments using their currency of choice. It could be US dollar, various other currencies, like in Southeast Asia is one of our target markets. And that's really one of our big plays in the region, because we believe that Asia and Southeast Asia in particular is going to sort of leapfrog into these technologies, kind of like how they're doing with OpenClaw. And we've probably seen a bit of pretty serious adoption in China and sort of official pushes to help people adopt this tech. So we think a similar thing may happen with Lightning, and we've been trying to push that, and it has happened to a degree, right? We had quite a few users with our mobile app. We've got 100,000 downloads. We have a few major enterprise companies, traditional finance companies, using our stack. And then this new wave we've recently created, as you saw, the capabilities for agents now to use our services via Model Context Protocol or simply via our command line interface tools. And they can just simply sign up, get an API key, and get started with receiving and sending Lightning payments and buying and selling Bitcoin using stablecoin, and mostly doing fiat payouts to bank accounts. Not necessarily buying using various local currencies. We're not quite there yet, but they can buy with US dollar and stablecoin. But beyond that, basically you do all these kind of agentic payments as we've been demonstrating. And we'll come out with some more visual and video demos, because it is quite a mouthful and sort of a lot to wrap their heads around. So I guess it's up to you to decide, like, to what extent you want me to gently introduce some of the audience, because I'm sure they're like, what are all these buzzwords? OpenClaw, agentic payments, maybe they're only broadly familiar with Bitcoin and Lightning payments. So we can slowly, step by step, just piece that together for the show as you want. It's up to you how you want to.
Let's do it. So I think the start would be really starting with the why, right? Like, why would a Bitcoiner, they're holding this hard asset, this spare asset, and there you have one side of the camp, Sailor and strategy. This is pristine collateral. The other side is Bitcoin white paper, purist on the side of peer-to-peer transactions. So let's go with the thought that peer-to-peer transactions, we want people spending their Bitcoin, increasing the volume of Lightning payments. What would be, I'd say, the really impetus for someone to sit down for 30 minutes to an hour and want to give their agent access to Bitcoin? Is it planning trips or buying flights or paying for services? Like what do you think is like the simple impetus for doing this?
It's an excellent question. So I'm going to give myself 5 seconds just to process it, because there's so many ways I could go this. I'm trying to think what's the best for your audience.
Yeah, of course.
The most powerful thing I personally think of, especially when it comes to Lightning for these agentic payments and agents in general, is that Bitcoin was originally designed to be internet money. I remember back the Reddit way back when was like that was like magic internet money, right?
Yeah.
And as a result, these agents, which are essentially powered by large language models that are built by like OpenAI and Anthropic, and now you have various open source models and local models that people can run on their computer, right? All of them are trained on internet data and ingested all this information and basically learned about Bitcoin this way. So I think we saw that report where they didn't technically do this, but they basically, a lot of these agents using LLMs basically chose Bitcoin in a sense as their payment of choice, because there's so much history and knowledge and source code to pull from the internet. So there's already like a natural merging there, which is quite an interesting moat, by the way. It's like 17 years of data and discussions and code to draw upon. But the other thing is it's obviously a hard asset, and it's irreversible transactions. This is going to be really important, specifically with Lightning, because agents need a way to send and receive information as money and send money as information. What I mean by that is they're going to be communicating with each other. And in the previous segment, we were talking about like agent-to-agent payments. They're going to come sometime in the near future. I believe they're going to come when you have the ability to use Lightning as a protocol to help various agents communicate with each other, particularly because it's an adverse, unfriendly environment. So if you think about the game theory, there's a lot of incentives for agents to sort of spam each other and cause their owners to spend a lot of API credits or spend their usage of their ChatGPT or Claude credits and subscription credits just to be malicious, right? So there may be a way where Lightning is sort of this method of maybe being a sort of micro paywall and micro payment method for various use cases around agents. But the second one, which is more down to earth, is it is just super simple to make online payments to like, hey, top up my Bitrefill and buy me a gift card with natural language prompts. And I think I showed you one, and I'm just going to throw it out again. Your bot Claudius, right?
Yeah.
Which we paid out to. I simply did this on Twitter, and I'm just going to go ahead and do it again. Hey, pay out 100 Satoshis to Claudius right now, right? And like for your audience, I don't want to share screens and get all to the jazz, but what I just did there was I got an OpenClaw agent, which is connected to the Neutron API via Model Context Protocol and various tools in the backend. And I got a voice note Telegram set up that it'll take that voice note, turn it into a prompt. It's now going on the back end of my OpenClaw agent, sending that to the Neutron API, and that's going to pay out sats, right? And now you can do that as like mass payouts. You can pay out like 10 people at the same time. You can do various kinds of interesting, convenient payments these ways, right? And we'll eventually get and show more demos of that. I don't want to like prepare a complex thing for today, but you could pay out your users and audience members as a prize, like top 10 winners of whatever competition you want to put out there. You can pay them all out at the same time with a simple voice prompt or text prompt, obviously, whichever one you prefer. So there's all these use cases that are coming out now with Lightning plus AI agents. And Lightning is perfect because it's instant settlement. It's irreversible. That's going to be a very important thing. And it's decentralized. And I believe that agents are going to be in this future where everyone's going to own their own agent. It could be locally on their computer, like how you and I have set up with OpenClaw. OpenClaw is just software that's running on your computer. And Bitcoin is a perfect match for that. And Lightning as a payment method is a perfect match for that because it's all effectively local first and in your control. So that's why I think it's like a perfect match why you want to start looking into this.
Yeah, I think the Bitcoin Policy Institute study, right? Super interesting.
Yes, that's the one, yeah.
And then you have like stable coins, but like we need to educate people on like why stable coins are still tied to the politics of the United States. And you're South African. You're probably like, why does my entire economy and like my bank account affected so much by somebody I can't even vote for, right? So it's a good reason, where if you can educate and if agents can get to that point where they say we know all the variables involved with the supply overhang of Bitcoin. If we're mining 20 million coins now and there's like 1 million coins left, like they know, could model out what they think value is going to be versus like they don't know what inflation is going to be. Next Fed chair could be very friendly towards inflation, but they could print a lot of money. But they don't. It's a huge unknown, and I think that's what people don't realize is like looking 10 years down the line. If you're an AI agent now, how would you even think of one country out of 200, their monetary policy could be now less Fed independence? So whoever the president is voted into office in a single country is affecting my store of value. That it's hard to make sense. But also you can't do gold, which is, I could see them preferring gold over fiat currency because of the historical nature of it and the 2% inflation, in supply. At least they can model that out. But that's not the case when you're on the internet. How would they buy and sell gold? Maybe they do ETFs, but it's not nearly as fluid. So for the audience, I think when you're looking at, it's great to experiment with, you're actually doing tangible things. I think people need to realize that you can burn a lot of credits setting up, home automation or, easy things to get going, that maybe make your life easier, that like give you a full digest in the morning. But I'll be honest, I've done some of those digests and it was just burning a lot of credits, but sometimes I don't even like look at all of them. There's a lot of cron jobs that are scraping this and that and the other and reading newsletters, and there is value there, but I think a lot of people are going to burn through credits in that way. I do think put a small amount of sats, give your agent the ability to pay for something and test it early. That way, when you want to start getting to where you have services, you don't want to have to do any of the, paste the lightning address or scan the QR code yourself. You can have an agent do it, and it's really nice. And the other piece I think that is very important for what I see looking forward is one of the biggest pain points of being your own bank in Bitcoin is accounting and taxes, right? What's the price when you buy and sell? And one thing that AI can do really well is they can do math really well. They can do spreadsheets. If you're looking at Claude Cowork, if you're someone that uses OpenClaw, incredible things you can do. We've pasted in a bunch of numbers and we said, look, we gave you access to this Excel doc, this Google sheet, put all of these numbers in, do all the calculations. I don't want to do a single formula. I don't want to touch anything. And it comes out with a massive like profit and loss statement and then shows us the resulting balance. So if you think about your Bitcoin transactions, I think this is one thing that would want to see more people experiment with. We'll experiment with it as a first go. Is the reason if you have an agent working on your behalf to pay for everything, just like you're a billionaire, like they don't write checks. They have an assistant that writes checks. They have a family office that writes checks. They don't actually, for the most part, sign off and pay for things directly. This means that like an agent can do your taxes, at least do your taxes from the side of, they would know the Bitcoin price from the timestamp. They would be able to do all these microtransactions. You can, set up processes around, okay, what are all the payments that I made? What was the current price? Am I paying a capital gains on this because I bought and sold, et cetera? That's a big plus, at least for me.
That's a huge one. I mean, this is just even separate to doing like agent to agent payments and all other complex things. So taking a step back and using these tools for yourself to at least get an understanding of how to process all this stuff, because there's a lot of information, usually relying on experts. And of course, it is large language models are, of course, indeterminate, right? So they're probabilistic systems. So obviously you can't necessarily like fully trust them just yet, but they're getting pretty accurate. As you mentioned, like it's worked for you. It's worked for me for a number of use cases. You still have to be careful. I don't want to like overhype it and say like it can just solve everything. At least not yet. But the tools being built around it, yes, it is allowing these more consistent and reliable use cases. And that is a perfect one if you're doing hundreds, if not thousands of transactions a day with Lightning, and somehow now you need to be tax compliant. All that's one thing I'm thinking of with agentic payments. It's definitely going to be one thing to consider. Going back to the specific thing with Lightning in general for payments with agents, I think that we're going to move into this world where you're going to see new modalities of commerce unlocked by high frequency transactions with agents and Lightning, which we didn't really think of before. Things of like, allowing someone to ping a website and scrape their data for a few Satoshis, right? For example, right? That's like a very simple use case that people have sort of described, because obviously now a lot of people don't want to necessarily expose all their data to the internet, because they can easily get web scraped and their data just get ingested by some large language model, and then they now get to have that provided to someone else, basically for a service, right? So again, some copyright potential issues there. I'm not going to get into the details, but yeah, that's a great use case right there for agentic Lightning payments. Is people can now sell their data to large language models in one way, shape, or form. I'm oversimplifying. I'm sure someone out there might say, no, it doesn't quite work like that. But that is the general idea. If I had to say, like, what is something that Lightning plus agents can enable that we don't have today? That's like a very good example.
Yeah. All right. So for the audience, let's say you're sold on it, right? You want to give at least a couple hundred sats, maybe 1,000 sats, less than $10 to an agent to start get going. What would you, let's start with the foundation, right? So let's do OpenClaw. There's so many, I think, so many different ways to get started now. It's never been easier. There's a lot of reasons long-term to want to have your own Mac Mini on your desktop, where you're doing software, you're doing terminal, you control your sovereignty. We put out an article about data sovereignty and how there's a huge data leak risk, sending out to models. So like you want to get to a step of like doing cold storage, self-custody, but then there's going to be steps along the way, right? So if you just want to experiment, it is pretty easy to use a service that spins up a VPS, virtual private server in the cloud that you can rent, and see if you even, want to do this before you invest a ton of money. Also see like, what are the capabilities of, Perplexity computer has come out, or Cloud Cowork, before you're investing $1,000 or $500 or $10,000 to run it locally. So let's say with the OpenClaw setup, what's next? Like, what do you recommend people getting started, in Neutron Pay? And then, what are the other, external wallets they might need to do, have to be able to like fund that?
No, so I'll start like really simple. Like OpenClaw is one thing, but you can even take a step back and start with free open source coding agent tools, which are totally free and allow you to actually experiment with free online models that aren't ChatGPT, aren't OpenAI or Anthropic's models, but they allow you to get a taste for things before you go, buy a ChatGPT subscription, Codex subscription, Claude subscription. So you want to start with something called OpenCode, which is an open source coding agent. It allows you to use, as mentioned, you could use free models like Kimi K 2.5, I think Minimax, all these others. They're basically free. Now, again, just a word of warning, and to be honest, it's like these are online models, and these companies, the data you give them, it's a black box. You don't know how that gets ingested into their models. This is a wild west at the moment in terms of like data and privacy things. So just be aware that if you're sharing information there, that it's like maybe something that you're okay with sharing. Just keep that in mind. I'm not saying they do that, but you got to treat it like that, because it's going off your computer to online. Same with Anthropic and OpenAI's models. Anyways, but these are free models to try. And what's cool about a coding agent, you brought up Claude Code. The OpenCode is the same as that, but it's open source, and you can use these free models in there, or even offline models. And you can actually set it up that way first. You don't need a full autonomous agent like OpenClaw just yet. And what that is it's just a chatbot that has access to read and write files on your computer. And you can now ask it, okay, I want you to help me step by step start installing some things that can help me do X, Y, Z. In this case, I want to install like a Bitcoin wallet for my agent. What would be the steps? Now, depending what model you use, it's going to give you different advice. And again, you have to be careful. You have to assume this is potentially dangerous, because it can read and write operations to that folder you give it, right? And we'll get into OpenClaw in a sec, what that looks like. But once you do that, and let's say you get to the point where it sets up its own Bitcoin wallet, it's got the private keys. Once again, you got to be careful, because it's like, you got to now, if you're a Bitcoiner, you should know and have best practices for storing that private key, right? But yeah, then at that point, step by step, you can just keep asking it, cool, I want you to do X, Y, Z, next step. You should have a Bitcoin wallet set up for your coding agent, which you can engage with a text user interface, like a chat interface, just like ChatGPT or Claude chat, but it's in your computer setups locally, right? Which is really great. And I'll create some more demos of that, because I think that's a cool way for people to start. Now, if you want to take it a step further, do what you and I did and set up OpenClaw. Obviously, there's a lot of disclaimers there. It's a very dangerous tool if you're new to anything to do with cybersecurity. The cool thing is you don't necessarily need a Mac Mini. Again, that's why I said start with like OpenCode and these free online models, because it's totally free. But if you want to go to the step to give it its dedicated machine, which you absolutely should, you could do that, set it up. And then what you could do with us, just to tie in Neutron to this, is what Neutron is we basically provide like an agent wallet service via API. So we are custodial. I want to disclose that at the moment. We'll eventually have some other non-custodial services. But the point of us is what you use us for is the ability to spin up various agents in all these ways, whether it's via a coding agent like Claude Code or OpenClaw, multiple agents, and you can have various, let's say 10 of them. And now let's say each one of them want them to have their own Bitcoin wallet. That gets a lot to manage. So what Neutron API does is it allows you to manage all of your agents through a central wallet and all their transactions and give them each their own API key. So you can sort of start to see how this is useful. What that means is you control their access to the wallet. If you want to shut one off or give them time-limited access, you can do that. And then what happens is you can now do what we did, was create all kinds of interesting agentic payments. Cool, like, hey, I want to pay out Jody. I want to pay out my friend in Vietnam to his bank account. All these different kinds of payment use cases you can now do for each of those agents, and that you don't have to worry about the private keys. The cool thing is, if you do it properly, like I showed in one of my demos, you don't have to hold funds with us. You use us almost like an agentic payment switchboard. Like, hey, as sats come in, like say 10,000 sats come in, I want you to convert that and pay it out to my bank account, or to a stable coin, to a separate wallet, or to my cold storage Bitcoin on chain. That's pretty cool. I think that's what we're providing at the moment. That's like unique. And afterwards, we don't have to do it now, but like afterwards we'll show some more use cases. We can always do a future show or just a demo, you and I together, just to show it. But that's what we provide. But I highly recommend, obviously, try setting up, your agents with their own wallets first. Also, and just be careful of how you manage the private keys. Cool. Oh, just one second. Are you muted, or sorry, am I muted?
I am muted. That's a good point. I probably thought that your audio is off, but good point. Don't give your access to your Claude bot to your entire work computer or personal computer. Try to segment that off as much as possible. That's why people, say like a cheap Mac Mini, and then don't give it access to your email if you have a little sensitive data in there. We've seen people delete all of their email history or majority of it, and very powerful tools that you can't even imagine. Like, you don't even think about what could go wrong, but then it could go wrong, and it totally surprises you on how impactful it could be, like deleting all your emails.
Yep.
One thing that we're going to do, we always want to have fun here, is the daily stack, is we're going to show a little giveaway. We want to send some sats your way. If you're listening, to the audience, drop your Lightning address in the comments during the show. We'll have @Claudius send you 100 sats. So we're live agentic Lightning payment demo with Jonathan right now. You guys are listening in. I've actually been playing around with this, so it is funny. Jonathan, I'm going to have to let you take it away a little bit and maybe show the audience a little bit of like a payment demo, because I'm going to have to add in X API credits. So this is a lesson in itself.
I was thinking of this. I was like, I hope because I'm using ChatGPT 5.4 at the moment, not to shill them, but I just want to be like a full disclosure, like what model I'm currently using. And I was like, oh man, I hope I don't run out of credits, because I'm currently using a Codex subscription. So I'm right with you. I feel like I felt like something's going to go wrong. So I tell you what, I did prepare.
There is a piece on that topic immediately. Would be, will you ever see a free version of Claude for us, like with OpenAI? I don't know. I think the as Jonathan said, on the side of like, what are we running? We're also just started running ChatGPT 5.4, and that's because API credits are very expensive. So you want to try to use one of these, max plans if this is something you really want to invest in, because connecting via the authentication to either Claude Code Max or ChatGPT 5.4, which is actually going through Codex. So that's an important thing that you'll learn during setup, is it's going through like the Codex coding agent plan. So it's like the $200 a month. But what you're getting is not unlimited, but it's giving you a pretty decent chunk, and it's way cheaper than if you're doing a per API call basis or a token based pricing. So in a very similar to Jonathan, we're also doing OpenAI $200 a month plan, but it's giving us enough like good frontier model, quality model. What I would recommend on that point, like Jonathan mentioned, is use OpenRouter or a similar type tool. And then we have like Kimi K 2.5, very cheap option, or, we're experimenting a little bit with Minimax on that. So sorry, Jonathan, sorry for interrupting, but for the audience, want to give them a little bit of the inner workings of which model. And to Kareem, your point, I don't know if we're going to get a free version, but if you drop your address, we will try to send you some sats. I'm going to jump on my separate computer, the Mac Mini, and add some API credits right now.
Yeah, look, eventually you can learn to run your own local models. By analogy, loose analogy, I'd say it's almost like running your own Bitcoin node, if you wish. There's a lot of parallels, by the way, between Bitcoin and AI. There's like ways you could be more like of a Bitcoiner in the AI space, like running things locally, learning these things. And again, it's complex, but just think about your Bitcoin journey. There's a very similar journey with the AI world, which is quite cool. I think it's a very powerful parallel. So once you do that, then it's basically you just paying for your electricity costs because it's running on your computer. And obviously, you'll never have as strong a local model as a frontier model, as they call it, by OpenAI and Anthropic. But that's a good place to start thinking about, especially if you want to own your whole data pipeline setup. So your data is never leaving your computer if you don't want it to, right? So that's something to think about. But yeah, so I just want to think, what next steps did you want to do? Did you want me to like demo something or share something on my side just to like show what's happening on the back end, or?
Yeah,
and you can answer the question.
Yeah, that's it. Pull it up. I'm gonna, for the audience, I'm gonna go in right now and go to the Twitter API developer console and add in, $10 worth of credits just to be able to. We want to have the agent, like, we're not trying to fluff this for you. Like, we actually want the agent to read the comments. Like, if I'm posting in Lightning addresses, well, then that's a failure. We're not like automating this. So I'm going to add some credits, but yeah, Jonathan, I'd love if you could do a screen share and just show us a little bit about maybe even the setup. If you have a demo account of like what Neutron looks like and how the initial setup would work, so that our audience knows what to get, how to fund it and connect their OpenClaw.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll do two things for you. So first of all, I see you got the thread going live, so I'm just going to open that up. And what I'll do is I'll be the backstop. So I'll be the safety mechanism. If for some reason Claudius can't make the payout, I'll actually do it from my setup, because I did test it and it seems to be working. I just saw in the back end now it sent you 100 sats with that voice note I sent earlier. So let me just quickly open up that thread. I see myself, and I will make sure I got the right one. Okay, so I just want to make sure I got the right thread. So if someone replies with their Lightning wallet, that I will also send, what the heck? I'll just send them 100 sats or 200 sats, whatever we want, whatever the amount is, just not too much, because I've got a limited amount of sats in my wallet and I'll have to top it up. But which thread is this now? Could you just share me the link? I got the one that says BTC prediction markets, OpenClaw Lightning wallets.
Yeah, let me get it to you.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, I can see people in the chats also. So I see people in the X chat.
Yeah, I'll get right here. So if you look at the private chat on the side.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure my audio is still fine. I don't want to like accidentally route the audio. It still seems fine. And then I guess you're on YouTube also. So I'll just open up those two chats because I see most people are sending it through the live chat. Cool. I see us. Just pause this. Okay, so just questions on YouTube and X. Okay, so what I will do is I see Angelo and Cayman and Lom have sent their Lightning wallets. I don't necessarily want to do it with a voice note because it'll be probably pretty tricky to set it up, but I'll tell you what I will do. I want to share my dashboard, which, as you said, is like you want to see like, hey, what does the web app version of this look like on the back end?
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully not sharing anything too sensitive, but I will do the following. There we go. So now I want to share a window, which is, to see if this works.
Yeah, live demos are always fun, at least for being authentic. And I think this is something that AI can't replace.
It's fine. Yeah. I was like, if something fails, it fails. Like the most famous demos in the world all had failures. Steve Jobs' demos.
Sam Altman recently.
Sam Altman, Xerox PARC, they demoed like some amazing computing thing like decades ago. And it was like, eventually it worked, but it was like, that was like the famous one. So I was thinking about that today. It's pretty funny. Now, I just want to see, is something like in preview mode? I see it's locked into your, on the back end. I think it's not getting displayed. So I think it's up to you to share it when you're ready.
That's on me.
There we go. Cool. All right. So what I got here is the Neutron dashboard, which is essentially your account that you would log into. You'd sign up just with an email and password, and then you can immediately start using it as like your custodial wallet for Bitcoin, Lightning, stablecoin, and some fiat payments. And what I got here is just the transaction history. You can actually see some of the transactions sent. So this one over here, I'm going to zoom in. That was Claudius live on the show earlier, and we're just going to demonstrate a few others now. Obviously, the 4 sats, I believe, was the network fee. So again, you can debate, was that too high, too low? I mean, it's up to us, our Lightning infra that it went out of. So, but the point, what I'll do is I will now use my OpenClaw to, I guess I'll text my Telegram, because I don't want to use a voice note for. Let's start with Angelo, because he sent us first with Coinos. I mean, I'm hoping this is a Lightning wallet, and my OpenClaw will complain to me if it's not. But I will send you. What did you say the giveaway was? How much you want to give away to each one?
100 sats.
And obviously, 100 sats. Okay, cool. So I am, as we speak, saying pay out 100 sats to Angelus at coinus.io. Let's see what comes back. So now, if all goes well, I'm just going to click refresh here. What is it? Someone paid me. Oh, no, that was an invoice. Sorry. I was like experimenting. Yeah, there we go. So what's happened here is, I'm just going to zoom in, make sure you can see it. That is already paid. It's just on our side on the dashboard, it creates a transaction in terms of for various use cases. So obviously Lightning is instant. So when it was showing in progress there, it was actually already done. That's for various other use cases. So Angelus should have got it. Let's just wait and chat. Is it at the timestamp? Yeah, hopefully that's pretty good. I won't reveal anything else on that transaction. Let's just rather look in the chat. He can come back later. I'm sure he's like on and off. But let's just go ahead for the others. So Cayman, let's go. And you know what? Let's just be a little bit crazy and do like I promised you did, which is you should be able to do multi-payments, right? That's one of the use cases we're providing. And while I'm setting that up, I want to give some context, right? So yes, you can do mass payouts and payments with the Neutron API, and that is what's actually happening. It's it's part of it. But to be fair, part of this is also OpenClaw, right? So I've set it up that like you can create these agentic payment workflows where it's like, hey, I want to be able to do these multi payouts, and because of the Neutron API, we've set it up to enable like these mass payout use cases. So someone might ask, why would you want to do like multiple payments at the same time? That seems like a little bit excessive, right? The use case there is, let's say you have a bunch of contractors all around the world, 10 different countries. Let's say you want to pay them out each either in Bitcoin, stablecoin, or their local currency, and you have Bitcoin, right? This is where we can come in. You fund your Neutron account with Bitcoin, like let's say the daily amount that you have to pay out on your contractors, and in one transaction, you can in principle pay them all out. I have demonstrated this live, and I know Murphy's Law, something's probably not going to work, but let's go ahead and try this for now. For Cayman's wallet, LOM, and did I do Cybertruck? Cayman, you sent 2 wallets. So I'm going to do the first one, to be fair, because just to be fair to you, I can't pay out the same person twice. And Hunters. Okay, so just want to make sure I got everyone's there. Yeah, so I got 3 wallets. I'm going to say pay out 100 sats each to the following 3 addresses. Okay. Let's see what happens. Because as you've seen, it's like you can get it set up that it's quite deterministic, but so many things can go wrong. So like I won't be surprised if something fails here. But let's go. Okay, 1 has gone out there. In principle, the next one should happen, if not concurrently, then at least like quite shortly after. I'm going to open up here just to see the timestamps. Okay, so the first one went out.
Came in.
I think they're all
very much live.
Yeah, guys, all three went out at the same time, right? So this is my timestamp, which was 11 minutes past the hour, which I believe has happened there. Yeah, okay. Oh, cool. Two of them said at the same time. So yeah, we're not really BSing here, guys.
Yeah. I think this is a video, not a feed. Yes. No, it is. We're very much live. On my end, I'm still getting X API credits so that it can read these automatically. I will verify that the other day, Lev, one of our good friends, we had him comment on something, and I said, hey, Claudius, our Clawbot, go read the comments and then go send it out to any Lightning addresses posted. So that would be slightly more automated, but like Jonathan and Neutron Pay are not associated with Twitter or X, so they can't help that X API topping up is
I don't want to take the pressure off you guys. Like, this is still very new tech. I was expecting something to fail on my side today. And look, it's nothing to do with the Neutron API. It's all to do with you building workflows on tools that are ultimately powered by very fancy autocompletes. That's what a large language model is, right? But what's powerful is that, it's built all these other layers on top of it. Like, it has a reasoning layer. It obviously has all these different tools and like code that you can build on top of that. So it has checks and balances. Like, hey, did this work? No, do next. So there's like a lot of automations that happen on the back end, but it's still ultimately probabilistic. Things can go wrong. And of course, there's so many different moving parts. I was expecting something to fail, but it kind of worked on our side, and that's good enough, right? So don't take the pressure off yourself. I'm glad at least sort of worked.
Yeah, we're doing it. Who wants Neutron when there's Coinbase and Kraken? I think this is a really good topic to bring up. For my perspective, I think the thing is like those are custodial as well, but they're planning on being a centralized exchange and centralized for a very long time. What Jonathan hit on at the beginning that I think we should run through a little bit is the fact that we're looking at agentic payments, not where you're giving your agent full control of all of your Bitcoin or all of your wealth, but the ability to have a spending balance that you just send it off and say, look, you have under a $10 threshold, $50 threshold, a $100 threshold, the ability to just solve problems in my life. If you can pay for it and it makes sense, do it. And then if not, or if we don't agree that it's a good use of funds, let's review afterwards and hone in our process. So right now, I think we're early on like what exactly that workflow looks like, but you're essentially having this admin that has, not blank check authority, but they have a spending, cap that they can go out and, they could buy certain tools, pay for API credits like we're doing with X, that would then give you back time where you're not doing those things directly.
Look, I'm happy to respond to this because it's something that we built Neutron with this in mind, right? So yes, you can exchange Bitcoin, local currency. You can also swap between stablecoin and Bitcoin and local currencies. So essentially, we do have a component of us that is an exchange. The difference with Neutron is at our core, we're Lightning Network infrastructure. So this is our own infrastructure we built since 2017. We manage our own Bitcoin liquidity, our own channels. We've been part of the network for a very long time. So what we've built since the beginning, whether it's we have a mobile app that's available in 130 countries, the API, which I've just demonstrated, and like so the agentic tools you can build on top of it with our MCP.
Yeah.
So all of that is just built on our infrastructure at the end of the day, and we give the tools like I've shown it with Jody and some other videos and demonstrations. We give the tools that you can go and build OpenClaw on your machine and then just use us as one part of your services you want to maybe plug in, which is using agentic payments to swap in and out of Bitcoin to whatever you wanted, or let's say your agent's receiving Lightning payments from all different directions and you want to go pay out your cold storage. You can do that through us as your agentic wallet switch, if you will, or agentic payment switch. And the other thing is like at the end of the day, if people build on our tools using that, or end up getting their own Lightning infrastructure and just like and connecting to the network, and they'll eventually connect or route payments through us, that's also fine. We just want to grow the Lightning network. The whole reason we built the API and the mobile app was to show people use cases for Lightning, and now this is the next evolution of that. The problem with Coinbase and Kraken, not to bash on them, but the truth is, how do they make most of their money? I'm not going to go into that right now, but we all know how they make most of their money. It's not with Bitcoin and it's not with Lightning, but I'm glad they're supporting Lightning. Thank you very much. And I'm sure they're going to support basically a lot of what we just showed is, you have agentic payments and all this. But at the end of the day, we here because we believe Bitcoin and Lightning is here to stay. And we're happy for people to like build either on our services or use the ideas we're providing and just build their own stuff and just be part of the ecosystem, right? So we're an open ecosystem player from that perspective. In the long run, we hope Lightning takes over and we all just connected to the network in one way, shape, or form in a true peer-to-peer fashion. But as we saw, that isn't happening automatically. That's why we build these services to help accelerate that adoption and then encourage clients, users, individuals, small businesses, large enterprises, get your own infrastructure. You don't have to rely on us forever. Does Kraken and Coinbase do that? I think they make their money elsewhere. Sorry, just to shoot back a little bit.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
All the tokens under the sun that, have scammed people were shilled at the top, and then it's just exit liquidity for their founders, for the early investors, for the VCs. And I mean, exchanges are exchanges, but that I think they've made so much of their money off these things that are value extractive to so many that are not educated on like all the downsides that have happened, all the greed driven incentives. And so what you guys are doing too, like on the Lightning side, for those that aren't as familiar with making payments, you're not I'd say one of the friction points certainly with Lightning is that channel management. You're opening up like a two-way channel at the very basic sense, with another party, or you're using someone, like a Strike wallet that's opening up their channel, and then you're able to make payments, but you're still having to manage, having a receive balance in there, having, capped at the amount that you can send. Tell us a little bit about like how you, where you see Lightning payments now is abstracting as much of that away as possible, just to make it easy, so it's not all of these thought processes the average person, who's used to Venmo has to think about.
It's such a good question. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm actually not the expert here. This is Albert's domain. He's the founder of Neutron and built it. He's probably been in Lightning as long as anybody else has. If you look at like all the different players in the ecosystem. But that is one of the reasons a lot of these, let's call them Lightning service providers like ourselves and others exist, is to, yes, abstract away a lot of these complexities. But the question then becomes sort of what is your end game, I guess, and our end game isn't to like necessarily abstract it away forever. Like I said, we want to encourage people to build and connect to us, connect channels with us, connect to the network, learn about it. It is complicated. I get it, right? It's kind of like saying, hey, everyone must just become a Bitcoin miner now. No, but that's becoming kind of true with like these home devices that like heat your house.
I got one up here.
Yeah, right. And like I'm not saying it's not a perfect analogy, because I think, to be honest, I think Lightning is actually more complex than that, right? I think it's actually way more complex than that.
I agree with that.
But I think the good news is maybe, again, this is super speculative, so don't take my word for it, but maybe this is where agentic AI and autonomous AI could help individuals to a degree. Again, this is probably super dangerous to let it like have any kind of access to anything to do with like your keys and your transactions and things like that. But it could probably automate quite a bit of your Lightning channel management and liquidity management. And I think it's a worthwhile experiment. It's something we've discussed and thought about. It's like that was one of the first things we thought about. Hey, like AI would be a great use case for this, because that can maybe abstract away a number of things. But to be honest, I don't think you would necessarily use large language models for that. You would just use software, right? That's probably like way more reliable, but maybe there's a place for agentic payments in there, especially when you want to communicate with somebody. Like maybe someone has their agent, you have yours, and you say, hey, agent, go out and find like some Lightning nodes. We want to like maybe connect some channels with. Again, I'm using very like layman's term language here. I'm not an expert, so I'm probably getting something wrong here. So apologize. I don't want to offend anyone, especially not Albert. He'll probably be like very angry if I get this wrong. But the point is, it's like, you use your agents to communicate with someone else's agent to find nodes that you want to connect channels with. And then that gets passed off to actual like deterministic software tools that actually like manage things properly. But to like sort of do a lot of the natural language things, they're great, right? It's kind of like how we demonstrate. You can do like pretty simple natural language instructions that kind of work consistently. You just want to be careful what extent you want it to be fully autonomous. I don't think you need it fully autonomous. You can just have certain layers of it. And it's probably like a communications layer between different nodes that actually helps. Maybe I'm speculating. It seems like a decent idea. That's something I thought about.
Yeah. On the side of like what do you see coming next with OpenClaw, like Bitcoin, like what do you think is going to be like the next kind of like area that's going to be popular? Do you think it's going to be people that are, using these tools to like, help with like, I don't even know. Maybe it's the tax. I think it's the tax side. I think that makes my like Bitcoin experience easier, but it could be more on let's make these payments faster. Let's make the ability for like maybe these agents to be more autonomous, like have agency in themselves to be able to make decisions to get API credits on their own. I think
that was a good use case. Yeah,
most people see like the best Twitter threads, which I think a lot of them are like fluff and a lot of them are like behind the scenes, they're doing a lot to set it up, but they say, hey, I gave my...
Me too. I want to be full disclosure. Like I set up quite a lot to get it to the point of it's consistent. But what's cool is if you set up your OpenClaw well, it does have persistent memory. So once you've set it up, it more or less works consistently. And those are two separate things at the end of the day, even if it takes a bit of time to set it up. In the long run, as OpenClaw tooling and other tooling for like what's called persistent memory, which is basically like, everyone knows ChatGPT, like an instance of ChatGPT, it forgets everything after you switch to a new chat, unless you're using various other tools in the background. Same thing with OpenClaw, but it's gotten way better and there's other tooling you can use. So yes, you set it up, but eventually it gets to the point where it remembers. And it's like, through the logs, I see we tried a transaction to these guys a while back. Let's do it again. It's pretty amazing. It feels magical, right? But to your point, yes, you're saying, they kind of like set it up and it's all, I get it. Like there's a lot of hype on social media. I don't like it with both AI and especially crypto and AI stuff because it is a huge hype cycle that is coming. It already is here. And the substance behind it, it's hard to really walk through people. Like what's happening on the back end is kind of like, not that impressive when you visually see it, but if you feel it and experience it, it's pretty cool. But to your point, you're saying like, what do I see coming? And what are some use cases that sort of really take off, maybe that help agents somehow? Is that sort of what you want me to maybe dive into?
Yeah, I think one thing I'll pause before we jump into that is let's go check out, see if we got Twitter working, which I do think it is now. And again, hopefully we're not sharing any credentials. You can see this. All right, here you go. So what we were fixing before, we topped up the credits. We were having Claudius the ability to go out and read, the comments, right? So be able to pull these Lightning addresses directly, which some of what, when you're working with these OpenClaw agents that you're doing is, there's great packages, and we just talked to Dan Webb about this, of like, don't reinvent the wheel every time. Like there's probably good like NPM packages. If they're secure, you need to scan, make sure you're working with reputable, code, but don't always rebuild the wheel. I think this is one where it's simple enough. Hey, go scan the Twitter comments. Let's go see what Lightning wallets are out there. And this is what we built before that you had demoed, was the ability to like, let's read the comments and then, pay out people in the show. We think this is a really fun way to have a show where you have people engaged, that they can drop their Lightning address in there. We're moving sats around. This is in Telegram web, so this could have totally bad permissions on the microphone access. But what I'll try next is, okay, from the wallet addresses that you see, let's play them 100 sats. Let's see, will that go? Testing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Always allow. Delete this. Claudius, pay each of the Lightning addresses in the comments with 100 sats. Claudius, pay each of the Lightning addresses in the comments with 100 sats. Sweet.
I'll also set up mine. I'll quickly set up mine just to share, because I feel so bad. I was like, if this is going to happen to me, man, this is going to happen. It's going to be like, every step of the way. So I've got mine ready to share, and I'll do that.
I think it also shows too, like people that are thinking about this stuff, that like it is really manual. Like you have to battle bugs constantly with a lot of this. Like even great coders, we had Brad Mills on the show, Bitcoin VC, very intelligent guy, and he's running into problems all the time. And I think he enjoys like telling his story and walking people through the problems, but he's having so many issues. And people say even with ChatGPT, Codex 5.4, like they still have issues with just like arguing over what's the right solution on something. So let's see what Claudius is doing. Speed app, maybe that's an interesting one. So 100 sats sent to BTC trends at strike.me. There we go. We have a win from a voice note. So Claudius heard the voice note, was able to like understand exactly what we were trying to do. 100 sats sent to each of these listeners. Plan B and Genio. Tell me a little about this. I think we mentioned this on Albi. It was either you or Albert. Certain wallets, certain providers are set up with Lightning in a different way. What would maybe prevent someone that would be, because this is a very fixable bug, it says, not a Neutron Pay failure. Like what would be a reason that like the like LN URL fetch logic might be off?
I mean, there's so many different things. Is actually giving the Lightning address endpoint is redirecting and current sender script is. I mean, there's so many things that might not necessarily be to do with us. It could be to do with us, could be to do with theirs. I don't think it's to do with theirs, to be honest. Let me just try it on my side to also double check. So I'll share my Telegram shortly. And I just wanted to check something.
Let's not overshadow the fact that Claudius did come through. He did get 100 sats out.
Yeah, I mean,
strike.me, you're gonna have to verify for us. I can't see your Lightning address. But everyone else, if you have another, okay, now we have another one, wallet of Satoshi. Can you scan? Let's ask him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna also help pay that one, but I want to help Plan B and Genio. Where can I copy paste their addresses? Where did you see those? Were those on YouTube? Where did you see that?
This is on Twitter. So the Twitter thread.
It was on the thread itself. Cool. I'll pull them up on mine. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. All right, I got some strike. You already got strike. Cool. So let me just get you, Genio, and Plan B. And I'll share my Telegram. Marcelo, I see Marcelo's also be following me and
yeah.
Getting some sats from some of the other giveaways again, which is great. Like I'm just so glad people are like starting to see this and experience it, because while I pull up Genio and Plan B and Marcelo, I've seen a lot of agentic payments and agentic commerce promoting and very slick marketing, which, to be fair, I need to get my marketing up. And I pretty much suck at content creation, and I need to get better at that. But I feel like a lot of the stuff we're doing is a little bit more real than some of the stuff I've seen put out there and announced. So I'm just glad people are seeing that on the Bitcoin side. It's happening. Like agentic app payments are happening. And yes, Neutron is doing some of it, but it doesn't have to be just through Neutron stuff. This is OpenClaw or open source coding agents that can run locally on your computer. You can set them up with a Bitcoin wallet. You can be careful how you manage those private keys and do it all yourself. You don't have to use Neutron. We're just doing it just because it's like way easier just to quickly show someone, cool, do it like this. If you're really excited by this, use your own wallet. We are a bring your own wallet service. I just wanted to put that out there because I feel like a lot of these services and startups and even bigger companies, I'm not going to name any names, but they're really self-promoting themselves off the tech. And not really demonstrating much, to be perfectly honest. Like I haven't seen too many demos or demonstrations, certainly not like live video. And again, that's like a disservice, because at the end of the day, this technology, everything we're showing here, this is all open source. This is all free. You can do this like on your own computer. We're free, by the way. Like we only charge transaction fees for swaps and for coming in and out of our payment service platform. Yeah. But we're typically cheaper than Stripe. In fact, very cheaper than Stripe with like Bitcoin to fiat. But yeah, we have no service fees and the like. And look, I don't know how these other platforms are going to charge, but like I think they're really looking to make bank on the hype. We're here to like push the bounds of like, hey, this is what you can do with this tech, guys. Everyone complaining about OpenClaw. What are the use cases? I mean, the argument is over. There's so many use cases. This is one of like 1,000 other use cases, and it's just cool because it's Bitcoin, and obviously, of course, we love it, right? So, anyways, I yapped enough there. Let me pull up my Telegram now, and let's see.
Yeah, you pull up yours. Marcelo, who's been a follower for us in the audience, active on there. He's new, so pull your Telegram out and see if you can see him.
Yeah, and let me just share. I'm just getting ready what I want to share and not share. As you know, right? This is the problem now when you're dealing with agentic stuff. It's like you actually have to be extra careful what you share. I saw a lot of people like share their API keys and like get all their Claude or Codex credits like drained or their wallets drained. Not that I have enough. Say again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually super interesting between models. So Anthropic, Sonnet 4.6, it was just like paste it in Telegram. Give me your API key. Give me your consumer key. And now with Codex, I was like, hey, like, here's the key again. It's just a test account. And it was like, burn that key immediately. Like ChatGPT 5.4 was like, burn that key immediately. Don't you ever paste an API key in Telegram to me again. And I was like, all right, you're harsh, but respect. You're telling me to have better OPSEC, which is good. I don't know why each of those models differs and what they think is safe with Telegram. Maybe ChatGPT is missing that Telegram's encrypted, but it might also be it just generally doesn't want you to in that practice, which is a good thing.
Yep. Yeah. While we're on that, and we're ready to share. By the way, I got a little bit of a some Gen AI with the Neutron agent representation. By the way, I was setting it up. I didn't get it ready for this, but next time I get it set up that each time it does a lightning invoice, I can just throw the QR code in that little placeholder there, which I thought is pretty cool. Again, this is like part of making pretty cool, fun like payment experiences. But I like that. Thank you, Nano Banana 2, I think it was, by Gemini that helped me with that. But just going here, so I'm setting up these lightning addresses here in a stack, and what I'm basically saying is, cool, here's 4 lightning addresses. Once I give you the voice prompt with the amount that I want you to pay out to each, then actually execute the transaction. So just sort of setting up a 2-step here.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't leak anything sensitive. So if it does, I'll just like shut it off.
Please don't drain Jonathan's wallet if it does. Yeah.
Whatever. This is for the future of Bitcoin and AI. So be it. Okay. Queued. Got it. Recipients. I'll wait for your voice note. Okay, cool. So let me see. Do I want to do this via my app or the desktop? Because this is the desktop right now. Let me just do it via the desktop. Why not? Some emojis. Okay. So for these 4, just want to make sure. We're saying like what, 100 sats also?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, why don't we just like up the antes? I did this one with you, but just to like show people, this isn't like predetermined stuff. So let's just see if it fails. But yeah, so for each of these lightning addresses, I want you to pay out in the number of Satoshis, the founding year of the United States divided by 10. And obviously you can use floor division. So just figure out how many Satoshis that should be for each of these. And please don't drain my wallet. Okay, so in theory, it should do 177 sats to each of them. But in practice, we're maybe about to get wrecked. I'm asking for my demo to fail at some point.
You got to push the limits, but
you got it.
People want like failure because it's humanizing, right? Like,
yeah,
if we're doing this pre-planned or pre-recorded, it wouldn't be as impressive if you find it impressive. But people want to see, oh, this is how it would look if I actually went through it. Hi from Buenos Aires, Marcelo. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah. I've seen you about. Thanks for supporting us. I saw you downloaded our wallet also, Marcelo. So yeah, bro, keep following us. We're going to try to push as much cool stuff as we can on the consumer side too. So now here's the catch with voice, as you saw. Obviously, it's getting processed, computing the amount of sending for
parsing out the text, parsing, the voice.
No, it's mostly so I'm using Whisper. Again, I don't know if that's the best option for
I see
voice
ads
to
for
text.
that the most. Do you like it? Is it good?
Floor dividing. Okay, so I think that should work. So I want to just quickly share my dashboard, just so then no one on chat has to like share that. Yeah, I got it. I want to share. So let me just close my Telegram and then open my dashboard. So again, for anyone tuning in, Let me just do window and then dashboard again. So I haven't refreshed it yet, but it should have already done this. So let me just when you're ready, you can share the screen I've pulled up onto the queue. Okay, so this hasn't been refreshed yet. So as I refresh this, in theory, the 4 transactions should pop up. And it did. It just added the fees. So it was 177 sats plus 4 sats for the network fee. And yeah, all at the same time, guys. I'm just going to go back to my Telegram timestamp. Yeah, that was 36 minutes on the hour. So I'm pretty happy with that, guys.
Nice.
Like I said, I want to make a point here, not to like just promote like Neutron. Thanks, Marcelo. Yeah, I really want to put out a challenge to all the people, both in crypto and traditional finance, talking about agentic payments, and particularly those that I'm sorry, I have to call out a big names. I believe Stripe put out a interesting article that specifically only mentions stablecoins and mentions something about Bitcoin not really being an ideal use case for agentic payments because it's like not good for everyday payments, yada, yada. Of course, they didn't mention Lightning. I'm going to pull up that article and I'm sorry, I have to call them out. I'm going to put it in the, you can put it in the show.
They have their own network now, right? They have their own chain. Is it the Tempo?
Yeah. And look, that's fine. Like, I still think there's a use case. There's a use case for that. But I want them to come back and take a look at this. And all the people that said that Bitcoin is not going to be used for everyday payments. Yeah, dude, this is a pretty small transaction. And we just did it all the same time. It's 177 sats. And I did that with a voice prompt. And now you could do that. You could just imagine all the kind of other use cases you could do. So, that's my challenge to these guys. Clip this and put it out there. The guys that have criticized Bitcoin and Lightning as a means of payment, either for agents or everyday payments, I don't think you can actually stand by that anymore, right? Thanks, you can stop sharing. I don't think you can stand by those statements anymore. I think you actually have to consider retracting them. That's why I wanted to do this, by the way, because it's like there's been too much talk of that. And I think Lightning is going to be the rail that powers agent-to-agent AI economies. And what that looks like is it will be the protocol that allows them to communicate both for like buying and selling from each other, like on a micro transaction level, and for communicating, like it costs tokens to communicate back and forth. Lightning can be a way that each agent can pay each other for their own tokens per response, right? And you can always have like a little bit of a agentic conversation protocol happening. It's one of the things I'm going to look toward building next, which is obviously quite a task. But if we could pull that off, then that's basically agentic commerce powered by, or at least on one channel. If you think about the Lightning network, you can extrapolate that to a network of agents. It's a similar analogy, right? So like the Lightning network of AI agents would be one single conversation extrapolated to a network where they're actually passing on a chain of prompts using Lightning to both pay for it, but also as a protocol to like protect each other from spam and other malicious activity. That's the way I'm visualizing it at the moment. Again, speculative, but since we've gone into it, man, I was just in the flow and I had to share that. So
yeah, have to. We're 8 minutes over, but we're gonna let it run for 3 to 4 more minutes. We'll 11:42 my time, and look at it, loving here. People loving the SaaS. Jonathan, you're average Joe, killing corporate giants like JP Morgan and Bank of America. Absolutely, no one wants to pay $30 for a wire or international wire. We've gotten hit with ACH fees that are, into it. QuickBooks, obviously, like annoying $150 ACH fee, like insane. Like what?
Yeah,
like, that is. So
If you're in the US and you want to pay out to let's say Southeast Asia, and look, we're not the only ones, but if you particularly want to pay out to Southeast Asia, we can get you covered. So if you have Bitcoin, stablecoin, you can fund your Neutron account, verify it, and then you can pay out to third-party bank accounts, similar to how we did it now in like a mass payout fashion. That doesn't have to be with the prompts. Obviously, if you're paying out to bank accounts, you probably want to just do it more programmatically, or even just manually. You can obviously do it manually on the dashboard. But we got that use case covered for you. Again, it's going to end up being cheaper than most methods, but in particular if you have Bitcoin, so you don't have to go to exchange first of all. Yeah, we've got you covered there too.
So I haven't seen this on any podcast. So live podcast payments, we're trying to be. It probably has happened. So we're trying to be We're trying to be like pushing the boundaries, also make it fun for people. I asked Claudius right now, as we're winding it down, what are some new wallets in here? So we got through Hope with BTC, WordStree 23, Marcel 0309. I think you got Marcel. Marcelo is someone that
it's fine. It can be paid out by each
21 rates user. So 21rates.com is where we have a lot of our Friday stack giveaways. Send 100 sats to all the new ones since the last check.
So that's a cool use case. I didn't think about that, but yeah, it's like, oh, there's too many people flying in at us. Like, what are the new ones, not the old ones? That is a good use case. Nice one, you see.
Yeah, I need to try out Whisper Flow, but the cool thing is Claudius also decided, oh, I can parse this text myself. So he built, the parser of voice to reading it. And that's the one thing for the listeners that are exploring with OpenClaw. It's not perfect immediately. Trying to do a perfect email address. Yeah. If I'm vocally saying a wallet address, he messes up sometimes, and that's fair. It's a very hard thing to read out. That.
Yeah. While it's doing that, I'll give you a very cool analogy. I've come to realize that it helps people understand. If you think about like how the first computers were built, like let's say Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs sitting there in their like garage building with the hardware chips and like putting it together manually. So you're kind of doing that, except you're instructing those hardware chips to like work on itself, right? Like imagine these little claws coming out of the machine. It's like building itself, but it's a bit chaotic, right? Sometimes it's going to break itself. Maybe it like rolls off the desk and like hits you on the foot or crashes into some other components and like breaks stuff. That's like a pretty accurate analogy of what's going on. That's why it's kind of dangerous, but it's pretty cool. It's like anyone can learn how a computer and your computing environment is actually sort of working, and you can sort of learn. That's why I use a separate computing environment. Don't put your data, don't put OpenClaw on a computer that has like data that you care about. But yeah, then you can do these kind of cool things. Like I said, it's like it kind of just figures out, okay, we need this package or we need this tool to pass this voice note. Yeah, very cool. It's very cool. You learn a lot very fast with it. A big shout out to Peter and the OpenClaw community. Thanks, guys. Like I know they've been getting a lot of heat from the crypto guys in general, and the Bitcoin guys. To be fair, like I know someone was banned on their Discord recently for just mentioning Bitcoin. They got a very strict no crypto, no nothing rule there for good reason. They're probably getting spammed so much. He deserves, and that community deserves a lot of support. I can see Bitcoin and OpenClaw really pushing the bounds of a lot of innovation in this space. So big shout out to them. You have our full support. Keep the hard work up, and we'll keep the work up on our side. And hopefully beat out the closed source solutions there, both for money and for AI. So we're here supporting you.
All right, last scan. If your name's not in there, if your name's not in the comments, put it in there. I was just manually typing out. Claudius is not ready to read photos, so I appreciate you participating, Loudgray 600. But I don't think he can scan photos in this use case, right? He can read photos and screenshots, and we screenshot all the time.
Which one did you see that? Is that in the Twitter thread?
I think in the Twitter thread, yeah.
I see a QR code, so I'll go ahead and do that one for you. So what I do here is, so Loudry, right? So I think the easiest way for me is take a photo, share it with OpenClaw. It'll probably forget that it had this capability, because I did add this capability about a couple of weeks ago, and it probably didn't save to the persistent memory. So it'll take a few times, but I could just go ahead and say, can you read this QR code? If you want, I could share mine just to show this. Again, like once you understand what OpenClaw is capable of and like what your computer is capable of in combination with like autonomous AI, it's the sky is kind of the limit. And obviously that's why it's so dangerous, because it can pretty much do anything on your computer, right? Including this. It's like, okay, we want to actually scan a QR code. Cool, just throw the image in there like I'm doing now. If it doesn't have the capability to take from an image to get the alphanumeric code from that QR code, it'll just quickly check what tooling it needs, download it, if need be, install it, and then should be able to do that. Try and decode the QR code image. I can read the visible address.
Add in, this is the last one, zap at shadowbip.com. We're over the time. And now I'll pay all of these out. If we run out of sats in the wallet, we will make sure to follow up and pay after. But we appreciate everyone jumping in. And
we'll do the rest of these like offline on separate clips. Cool, man. But Jody, thank you so much for the time, giving us the opportunity to show this. And big thanks to the OpenClaw community for having these tools to begin with. There's some exciting stuff happening to Bitcoin and AI, I think, and looking forward to chatting more about it. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, Jonathan, we're excited. I think it's just a ton of fun to show people like what is possible, with Lightning, with agents, anything that you thought was friction, with handling anything with the channels, taxes, etc. There's so much possibility. Now people can see it can be easy because you can have your AI admin handle all of it in a very easy way. They can handle the taxes. They can at least like track, the cost basis. They can also just track who you're paying out, like what your balance is, pulling stuff over from, you can control your main balance and then keep topping it up as a spending balance later. So check out Neutron Pay. We're going to have them back on. We're going to continue doing this. Going to probably try to do more live shows because we're both want to teach people about OpenClaw, the latest AI agents, how they can empower themselves, but also let's get some sats circulating. It's great to have Lightning in the use. Amazing. So we'll be back tomorrow, 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern. I will have to check the guests, but we got Publius 256. We have Infra, great on the macro side. And Jonathan, you enjoy your evening in South Africa.
Thanks, Jody. Talk soon. Really appreciate it for the time. Cheers, guys. Thank you, everyone. Bye.